Jake Morrison stood at the big window of his ship, watching the huge space station spin slowly in the darkness. The station was home to the Galactic Council, where all the smart alien races made decisions for the galaxy. Jake was a human captain, and right now he felt very small and forgotten. His ship was called the UES Liberty, and it was one of Earth's best warships. But compared to the giant alien ships around the station, it looked like a tiny bug. The aliens had ships made of crystal that glowed with their own light. Others had ships that looked like living creatures, floating through space like whales in an ocean. Amy Parker walked up to Jake. She was his communications officer, which meant she talked to other ships and got messages from Earth. Her face looked worried, and Jake knew why before she even spoke. "Captain, they said no again," Amy told him. "The Council does not want to hear about our security plan." Jake's hands made fists. For months, Earth had been trying to warn the Council about danger. Pirates were attacking ships near the edge of the galaxy. These were not just small robberies. The attacks were getting bigger and more organized. But every time humans tried to talk about it, the aliens acted like children trying to play grown-up games. The Council was run by very old alien races. The Zeltharians looked like moving lights because they were made of pure energy. They had been alive for thousands of years, and the Morphians lived on gas planets where everything moved very slowly. To them, humans were babies who had just learned to walk. Steve Rogers was Earth's top diplomat. He had been trying to make the aliens listen for weeks. In the last big meeting, the Council's leader had actually laughed at human ideas. The alien said humans were too violent and stupid to understand real peace. "They think we are savages," Steve had told Jake after that meeting. "They see our history of wars and think we cannot learn. But they do not understand that our wars taught us how to survive." Back on Earth, Helen Brooks was watching everything from her office. She ran Earth's Defense Department and had access to all the secret information. Her team of smart people had been studying the pirate attacks, and what they found was scary. "These are not random attacks," Helen told her assistant, Kevin Walsh. Kevin was a scientist who studied war and weapons. "Someone is organizing these pirates. They are testing our defenses, looking for weak spots." Kevin nodded as he looked at his computer screens. "The pattern is clear. First they attack small trading ships. Then they hit bigger cargo vessels. Now they are going after military patrols. They are learning our strengths and weaknesses." Ryan Davis was Helen's military advisor. He had been a soldier for 20 years and knew how real wars worked. "The Council species have been peaceful for so long they forgot what real fighting looks like. Their ships are beautiful, but they are not built for war. Their weapons are designed to scare away small pirates, not fight a real army." Helen walked to the window and looked up at the stars. "The irony is perfect. The Council thinks we are primitive because we know how to fight. But that fighting is exactly what they will need when the real attack comes." Jake had been thinking the same thing. Humans had spent their whole history learning to fight and survive. Every war on Earth had taught them new lessons. The aliens had lived in peace for thousands of years, which was wonderful, but it also made them weak. "Amy, send a message to Earth Command," Jake said. "Tell them I want permission to use Protocol 7. Amy's eyes got wide. Protocol 7 was humanity's secret plan. For years, while the Council ignored them, humans had been preparing for the day when the galaxy would need real warriors. The plan was simple. When the aliens finally realized they needed help, humans would be ready. The pirate attacks were getting worse every day. Helen's spies had found out that the pirates were led by a dangerous alien called Zorthak. He had been kicked out of the Council years ago for being too violent. Now he was gathering all the angry and desperate people from across the galaxy. "He has over 3,000 ships," Ryan reported. "Not just pirates, but real warships stolen from different planets. He calls his force the Void Reapers, and they want to destroy the Council completely." Steve Rogers tried one more time to warn the Council. He stood in their great meeting hall, surrounded by aliens who looked like living crystals, gas clouds, and other impossible things. "Honored Council members, our intelligence shows that a massive attack is coming. The enemy has real military ships and they know how to use them. The council leader, Vexthel, made a sound like laughter. Young human, your species has been fighting wars since you discovered fire. You see enemies everywhere because violence is all you know. The council has kept peace for 2,000 years. We know how to handle small problems. This is not a small problem, Steve said. These are not just pirates. This is a coordinated military assault with thousands of ships. Enough, Vexthel said. We will activate our standard defenses. Our automated systems and patrol fleets will handle any pirates who are foolish enough to attack us. Steve looked around the room at the alien faces. Some looked worried, but most seemed bored. They had lived so long without real danger that they could not imagine it anymore. Jake got the message from Earth Command later that day. Permission granted for Protocol 7. Good luck, Captain. Amy was excited and nervous at the same time. What happens now, Captain? Now we show them what humans are really good at, Jake said. The Council thinks we are primitive because we know how to fight, but fighting is exactly what they are going to need. Helen Brooks was coordinating with military bases across human space. All ships are to move to staging positions. Do not engage unless directly attacked. We wait for the Council to call for help. Kevin Walsh had been working on new weapons based on human fighting techniques. Our ships are smaller than the aliens, but they are faster and smarter. We can hit hard and move quickly like wolves hunting in packs. Ryan Davis was training human officers in tactics that the peaceful aliens had never seen. The Council fights like they are in a parade. Everything is orderly and predictable. But real war is chaos. The side that adapts fastest wins. As the days passed, the pirate attacks got closer to the Council's home systems. The aliens finally started to worry, but they still believed their automated defenses would save them. They had computers and robots that were supposed to fight for them. Jake watched the news reports from the Council station. The aliens were having meetings about meetings, forming committees to study the problem. Meanwhile, Zorthek S. Void Reapers were getting closer every day. They are going to learn a hard lesson, Amy said. Yes, Jake agreed. They are going to learn that peace is not free. Someone has to be willing to fight for it. And humans have always been willing to fight for what matters. The stage was set for the biggest battle the galaxy had seen in thousands of years. The Council's peaceful civilization was about to face an enemy that wanted to destroy everything they had built. Their beautiful ships and smart computers would not be enough, but humanity was ready. They had been preparing for this moment since they first joined the Council. Soon, the aliens would discover what human power really meant, and Zorthek would learn why humans had never lost a war when survival was on the line. The forgotten species was about to remind the galaxy why they should never be underestimated. The enemy fleet was like nothing anyone had seen before. Zorthek S. Void Reapers filled the darkness of space with thousands of ships. They came from every corner of the galaxy, all the angry and desperate people who had been cast out by the Council's peaceful rule. Zorthek himself was a massive alien with 4 arms and skin like black metal. He had once been a Council member, but his people had been thrown out for being too violent. Now he wanted revenge against everyone who had rejected him. Look at them, Zorthek said to his generals as they watched the Council station on their screens. Fat and lazy from too much peace. They have forgotten what real war looks like. Today we remind them. His fleet was not just pirates anymore. Over the years he had gathered real warships from dozens of species. Some had been stolen, others had been built in secret factories. All of them were designed for one purpose: to destroy the Council's perfect peace. The Council got the first reports of the approaching fleet with typical arrogance. Speaker Vexthel called an emergency meeting, but even in crisis, the aliens moved slowly. They formed committees to study the problem and held votes on what to do. 3,000 ships, reported Admiral Kethver, the Council's military commander. He was a Morphean, one of the gas giant people who thought very slowly. Our computers say this is not possible. Pirates do not have access to such numbers. Then your computers are wrong, Jake Morrison said from the back of the meeting room. The human captain had been allowed to observe but not to speak. Now he stepped forward without permission. "Captain Morrison, you are out of order," Vexthel sighed. "This is a council matter." "This is about to become everyone's matter," Jake replied. "Our intelligence shows these are not ordinary pirates. They have military-grade weapons and they know how to use them." Amy Parker stood beside Jake, holding a data tablet with human intelligence reports. "The Void Reapers have been studying Council defenses for years. They know exactly where to hit and how to avoid your automated systems." The Council members looked confused. They had never faced a real military attack before. Their idea of conflict was angry words in a meeting room, not ships shooting at each other with deadly weapons. Steve Rogers tried to explain what was coming. "Honored Council members, your defense systems are designed to handle small groups of pirates. Maybe 50 ships at most. But this is an organized army with thousands of vessels." "Impossible," declared Thexara, one of the crystal-like Zeltharians. "Our peace has lasted for over 2,000 years. No one would dare attack the Council directly." "Someone just did," Amy said quietly, back on Earth. Helen Brooks was watching the situation develop with growing concern. Her spy networks had been tracking the Void Reapers for months, and what they found was terrifying. "They are not just planning to rob the Council," she told Kevin Walsh. "They want to destroy it completely. Zorthik believes that if he can break the Council's power, all the peaceful species will bow to him." Kevin was studying the enemy fleet composition on his computers. "Look at this. They have ships from the Krix Empire, vessels from the Thorian rebels, even some old Council ships that were supposedly destroyed. This is not a random collection of pirates." Ryan Davis was more worried about something else. "The Council's defense fleet is moving into standard formation. They are following the same tactics they have used for centuries. But the Void Reapers have studied those tactics." Helen nodded grimly. "The Council is about to learn that their old ways will not work against a real enemy. Their beautiful ships and advanced computers mean nothing if they do not know how to fight." The human fleet was already moving into position, but they had to be careful. Protocol 7 required that they wait for the Council to ask for help. If humans attacked first, the aliens would see it as an invasion. "All ships report ready," Jake told his crew. "But we hold position until the Council calls for assistance." Amy was monitoring communications from the Council station. "Captain, they are activating their automated defense platforms. 36 weapon stations around the Council system. Against 3,000 ships," Jake said. "Those platforms were designed to stop smugglers, not an army." The first wave of Void Reapers entered the Council system like a dark tide. Zorthik-S ships moved in perfect formation, using tactics that no peaceful species had ever seen. They jammed communications, disrupted sensors, and began systematic attacks on the defense platforms. The Council's automated systems responded exactly as they were programmed to do. The platforms fired their weapons at the nearest threats, but the Void Reapers had studied these defenses for years. They knew exactly how to avoid most of the shots. "Platform 7 is down," reported Admiral Keffer from the Council's command center. "Platform 12 is under heavy attack. Platform 15 has stopped responding." The Council members watched in horror as their defenses were methodically destroyed. The Void Reapers were not fighting like pirates. They moved with military precision, coordinating their attacks to maximize damage. "This is not possible," Vexthel said, his energy form flickering with panic. "Our defenses have protected the Council for centuries." "Your defenses were designed for a different kind of enemy," Steve Rogers said. "The Void Reapers are using combined tactics, electronic warfare, and coordinated strikes. These are military concepts that your peaceful species never learned." The Council's main fleet finally arrived to help, but it was too late. The beautiful crystal ships and organic vessels of the Council were designed for exploration and diplomacy, not warfare. They moved in neat formations, broadcasting warnings to the enemy fleet. Zorthak laughed as he watched the Council ships approach. "Look at them. They are still trying to talk." They do not understand that words mean nothing when someone wants to kill you. The battle was a disaster for the Council. Their ships were faster and had better shields, but they did not know how to fight. They fired their weapons like they were in a training exercise, giving the enemy time to dodge and counterattack. The Void Reapers used brutal tactics that shocked the peaceful aliens. They rammed damaged Council ships, targeted escape pods, and used captured vessels as shields. In less than 2 hours, half the Council fleet was destroyed or captured. "We need help," Admiral Kethver finally admitted. "Our forces are not prepared for this kind of combat." "Then ask for it," Jake Morrison said from where he watched the battle. "Earth has been trying to warn you for months. We have been preparing for this day." Vextel's pride was broken along with his defenses. "What do you want from us?" "Complete authority to coordinate the defense," Jake replied. "No committees, no votes, no delays. In war, slow decisions get people killed." The Council station was under direct attack now. Zorthek's forces had broken through the outer defenses and were boarding the station itself. The peaceful aliens had never experienced violence like this. They ran in panic as armed soldiers smashed through their beautiful halls. "Help us!" Thexara pleaded. "We do not know how to fight these creatures." Helen Brooks received the message. On Earth, after decades of being ignored and dismissed, the Council was finally asking for human help. She looked at her staff, knowing that this moment would change everything. "All ships, this is Earth Command," she broadcast to the human fleet. "You are authorized to engage. Show them what we do best." Jake Morrison smiled as he heard the words. "All ships, this is the UES Liberty. Operation Redemption is now active. Let's remind the galaxy why humans are dangerous." The human fleet moved forward, 200 ships against 3,000 enemies. But Jake was not worried. The Void Reapers had spent years learning to fight the Council's peaceful forces. They had never faced humans in battle. "Amy, open a channel to the enemy fleet," Jake ordered. "Channel open, Captain." "Zorthek, this is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet. You wanted a fight. Now you have one." The human fleet moved through space like a pack of wolves. Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the UES Liberty as his ships spread out in attack formation. Unlike the Council's neat, predictable patterns, the human fleet moved in seemingly random directions that confused the enemy. "Target the command ships first," Jake ordered. "Amy, coordinate with the other captains. I want Volfpack tactics on the enemy flanks." Amy Parker's fingers flew over her controls, sending coded messages to the other human ships. "Captain Davis reports his squadron is ready. Captain Lee's destroyers are moving into position. Captain Brown's cruisers are standing by." The Void Reapers had been winning easily against the Council forces. Zorthek's ships were still destroying the beautiful alien vessels when the human fleet struck. But humans fought very differently than the peaceful Council species. "What are they doing?" Zorthek demanded as he watched the human ships on his screens. "They are not following any logical pattern." His tactical officer, a reptilian alien named Scare, studied the human movements. "They appear to be hunting, my lord, like predators surrounding prey." The first human attack came from 3 different directions at once. The UES Liberty and 2 other cruisers hit the enemy's left flank while destroyers attacked from below. At the same time, a group of human fighters swept in from the right, targeting the enemy's communication ships. "Direct hit on enemy command vessel," reported Amy. "Their communications are jammed." Jake smiled grimly. "Kevin Walsh's new weapons are working perfectly. Target their sensor ships next. Blind them before they can adapt." The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had seen in thousands of years. The Council species had evolved beyond physical conflict, but humans had spent their entire history perfecting the art of war. Every tactic they used had been learned through centuries of fighting for survival. Ryan Davis commanded a squadron of human destroyers, small fast ships that could hit hard and disappear quickly. "All ships, implement pattern Delta 7. Hit the supply ships and withdraw." The human destroyers swept through the enemy fleet like lightning. destroying fuel tankers and ammunition carriers before the Void Reapers could respond. Without supplies, the enemy ships began to lose power and weapons. "Impossible," Zorthak roared. "How can such a small force cause so much damage?" "They are using coordination we have never seen," Scare reported. "Every ship knows exactly what the others are doing. They fight like a single organism." Steve Rogers was coordinating with the Council species, teaching them human tactics in the middle of battle. "Do not try to fight them directly. Use your speed to hit their weak points and withdraw. Make them chase you into our trap." The remaining Council ships began to follow human examples. Instead of standing in formation and trading shots, they started using hit-and-run tactics. The crystal ships of the Zeltharians could move very fast, making them perfect for quick strikes. "This is working," Admiral Keffer reported from his damaged flagship. "The enemy is becoming confused. They expected us to fight the old way." Back on Earth, Helen Brooks was watching the battle through real-time communications. "Kevin, how are our weapons performing?" Kevin Walsh was analyzing data from the fight. "Better than expected. Our focus beam weapons are cutting through enemy shields like they were made of paper." The Void Reapers designed their defenses to stop Council energy weapons, not human projectile systems. The human fleet was using tactics that the peaceful galaxy had never seen. They coordinated electronic warfare with physical attacks, jamming enemy sensors while launching missiles from unexpected angles. They used deception, making the enemy think attacks were coming from one direction while striking from another. "Enemy flagship is turning toward us," Amy reported. "Zorthak S ship is massive, Captain. Twice the size of our biggest cruiser." "Size means nothing if you cannot hit your target," Jake replied. "All ships implement the Morgan maneuver." The Morgan maneuver was named after a human admiral who had used it against overwhelming odds 300 years ago. The human fleet pretended to retreat in panic, drawing the enemy into a trap. When Zorthak S flagship followed, it found itself surrounded by hidden human ships. "Fire everything," Jake ordered. The U's Liberty and 20 other human ships opened fire on the enemy flagship at the same time. The concentrated barrage overwhelmed the ship's shields and tore holes in its armor. Zorthak S mighty vessel, which had seemed unstoppable, was suddenly crippled. "My lord, we are taking heavy damage," Scare reported. "Our engines are failing. How can this be?" Zorthak demanded. "We outnumber them 15 to 1. "Numbers mean nothing if you do not know how to use them," came a voice over the communications. Jake Morrison's face appeared on Zorthak's screen. "You studied how to fight the Council's peaceful ships, but you never learned how to fight humans." The tide of battle was turning. The Void Reapers had been winning easily when they only faced the Council's predictable defenses. But human tactics were based on unpredictability, adaptation, and the willingness to take risks that peaceful species would never consider. Captain Lee's destroyers were using a tactic called swarm fighting, where small ships attacked in groups like angry bees. The enemy's big guns could not track targets that moved so fast and worked together so well. "Enemy morale is breaking," reported Captain Brown from his cruiser. "Several ships are trying to withdraw from the battle. Do not let them escape," Jake ordered. "Zorthak spent years gathering this fleet. If we let them go, they will just attack somewhere else." The human fleet pursued the retreating enemies with ruthless efficiency. Unlike the Council species, humans understood that sometimes mercy had to wait until after victory was complete. Every enemy ship that escaped would mean more innocent people killed later. "Captain, we are getting surrender signals from multiple enemy vessels," Amy reported. "Accept their surrender, but keep our weapons locked on them," Jake replied. "Trust is earned, not given." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the mighty Void Reaper fleet was scattered and broken. Some ships had been destroyed, others had surrendered, and the rest were fleeing in all directions. Zorthak's flagship was dead in space, its engines ruined and its weapons silent. "This is Captain Morrison to all ships," Jake broadcast. "Secure the prisoners and begin rescue operations. The battle is won." The council members who had survived the attack on their station watched in amazement as human ships methodically cleaned up the battlefield. The humans rescued enemy survivors, repaired damaged council vessels, and restored order to the chaos. "How did you do it?" Vexthel asked when Jake finally returned to the council station. "Your fleet was so small compared to theirs." "We did it the human way," Jake replied. "We adapted to the situation instead of following a script. We used our enemies' expectations against them, and we never gave up, even when things looked impossible." Steve Rogers stood beside Jake, his diplomatic uniform torn from the battle. "The council has been peaceful for so long, you forgot that peace sometimes has to be defended." "That is what humans do. We fight so others do not have to." The council station was badly damaged, but it was still standing. The peaceful civilization that had taken thousands of years to build had been saved by the species they had dismissed as primitive barbarians. "What happens now?" asked Exara, her crystal form dim with exhaustion. "Now you learn," Jake said. "You learn that the galaxy is not as peaceful as you thought. You learn that there are others like Zorthak who want to destroy what you have built, and you learn that sometimes the best way to keep peace is to be ready for war." The transformation of the galaxy's greatest alliance had begun. The Council would never again dismiss humanity as a primitive species. They had seen human power in action, and they would never forget it. The Council station looked like a broken toy floating in space. What had once been a beautiful symbol of galactic peace was now twisted metal and shattered crystal. Emergency lights flickered in the darkness as repair crews worked desperately to fix the life support systems. Jake Morrison walked through the damaged corridors where alien diplomats huddled in fear. These beings had lived their entire lives believing that words could solve any problem. Now they had seen what happened when someone decided that talking was over. "The medical bay is overwhelmed," Amy Parker reported as she caught up with Jake. "We have injured from 12 different species, and our doctors do not know how to treat most of them." "Get our medical teams to work with theirs," Jake ordered. "And Amy, make sure our people are gentle. These aliens have never seen violence like this before." The council chamber was a disaster. The beautiful crystal walls were cracked, and the floating platforms where the aliens sat were either broken or missing completely. Speaker Vexthel's energy form was much dimmer than usual, flickering like a candle in the wind. "Report," Jake said as he entered the chamber. He was no longer asking for permission to speak. The battle had changed everything, and now the council looked to him for answers. "The Void Reapers have regrouped," Steve Rogers said, reading from a tablet. "Our scouts report that Zorthek escaped in a smaller ship before his flagship was destroyed. He is gathering the survivors at the Zaria Nebula." "How many ships?" asked Admiral Kethfer. The Morphean officer looked exhausted and confused. His people were used to slow, careful decisions, not the fast pace of wartime. "About 800 vessels," Amy replied. "Not as many as before, but still a major threat." "And our intelligence suggests he is calling for reinforcements from the Outer Rim systems." The council members looked at each other with growing panic. The Xara-S crystal form was actually shaking. 800 ships? "But we barely survived the first attack. Our defenses are in ruins." "Your old defenses are in ruins," Jake corrected. "But you are not fighting this war the old way anymore. You are going to learn to fight like humans." Helen Brooks appeared as a hologram in the center of the chamber. Her image was being transmitted from Earth, where she was coordinating the largest military operation in human history. "Honored council members," Helen began, "the attack on your station was just the beginning. Zorthek is not interested in conquest. He wants to destroy the council completely and rule over the ashes." Kevin Walsh stepped into view beside Helen. "Our analysis shows that the Void Reapers are planning to attack the council homeworlds directly. They want to break your spirit by destroying everything you have built." The aliens in the chamber made sounds of horror. Their homeworlds had never known war. The Zaltharian crystal cities had grown peacefully for thousands of years. The Morphean gas giant colonies had no defenses at all. We cannot protect our homes, Admiral Kethver said quietly. Our people do not even know what war means. They will not know how to run or hide. Then we teach them, Jake said simply. And we teach you how to fight properly. Ryan Davis had been working with the surviving Council fleet, and his report was not encouraging. Their ships are beautiful and fast, but they are not built for sustained combat. Most of them do not even have proper armor. Can we retrofit them? Jake asked. Some of them, Ryan replied. But it will take weeks to make real improvements. And we do not have weeks if Sorthek is gathering reinforcements. Steve Rogers had a different concern. Captain, the Council species have never fought a real war. They do not understand concepts like acceptable losses or strategic retreat. They think every life lost is a failure. Jake nodded. This was the biggest challenge. Humans had learned through bitter experience that sometimes good people died in order to save more lives. But the peaceful aliens had never faced such terrible choices. Then we make sure they do not have to, Jake said. We will do the fighting. They will do what they do best. What do we do best? Asked Vexthal, his voice filled with confusion. You build things, Jake replied. You create, you explore, you make the galaxy a better place. That is what we are fighting to protect. Helen Brooks had been working on a plan that would use every species' natural abilities. The Zeltharians can pass through solid matter when they are in energy form. They can sabotage enemy ships from the inside. The Morphians can survive in environments that would kill most other species. The Hydrans work together naturally like a hive mind. Kevin Walsh was excited about the possibilities. If we can teach them basic military tactics and combine their natural abilities with human strategy, we can create something the galaxy has never seen before. A combined fleet, Jake said, understanding immediately. Each species doing what they do best, coordinated by human tactical doctrine. The work began immediately. Human officers were assigned to every council ship, teaching the aliens how to fight effectively. The beautiful crystal vessels learned to use hit-and-run tactics. The organic ships learned to coordinate their attacks. Amy Parker was working with a group of young Zeltharians, teaching them how to disrupt enemy electronics. Remember, you do not have to destroy their whole ship. Just disable their weapons or engines. One of the young aliens, who called himself Brightstar, was eager to learn. This is very different from our peaceful ways. But if it helps protect our people, we will do it. The training was not easy. The council species had to overcome thousands of years of peaceful instincts. They had to learn that sometimes the only way to stop violence was with greater violence. Captain Lee was working with a squadron of Morphian gas haulers, trying to turn cargo ships into fighting vessels. Your ships are built to survive in hostile environments. That makes them perfect for dangerous missions. The Morphian captain, whose name was too long for humans to pronounce, was worried. But we are not warriors, we are engineers and builders. Engineers win wars, Captain Lee replied. You understand how things work. That means you understand how to break them. As the training continued, disturbing news came from the Outer Rim. Zorthek was not just gathering the survivors of his original fleet. He was recruiting new allies, angry species who felt that the Council had ignored or mistreated them. The Krix Empire has joined him, Ryan Davis reported. So have the Thorian rebels and the savage clans of the Void. We are looking at a force of over 2,000 ships. The Council members were terrified by these numbers. Even with human help, they could not match such a massive fleet. Numbers are not everything, Jake said. Zorthek has a lot of ships, but they come from different species with different tactics. They will not work together well. But 2,000 ships, Vexara said. How can we possibly win? By being smarter, Jake replied. By using tactics they have never seen. By making them fight on our terms instead of theirs. Helen Brooks had been working on the ultimate strategy. We are not going to meet them in open battle. We are going to use their size against them. How? Asked Steve Rogers. By making them chase us into a trap, Helen explained. The Zarian Nebula is perfect for our purposes. The gas clouds will hide our ships and confuse their sensors. We can use the environment as a weapon. Jake smiled as he understood the plan. We make them think we are running away. They will follow us into the nebula, expecting an easy victory, but we will be waiting for them. The transformation of the galaxy's peaceful alliance was almost complete. In just a few weeks, the Council species had learned more about warfare than they had in thousands of years of peace. They were still gentle people at heart, but now they knew how to protect what they loved. "When do we leave?" asked Admiral Kethver. "Tomorrow," Jake replied. "Zorthuk thinks he is hunting us. It is time to show him who the real predators are." The Zarian Nebula looked like a giant storm frozen in space. Purple and blue gases swirled in massive clouds, hiding deadly lightning storms and magnetic fields that could tear a ship apart. It was the perfect place for a trap, and Jake Morrison knew it. "All ships report ready," Amy Parker announced from her station aboard the UES Liberty. Around them, the combined Council human fleet waited in silence among the gas clouds. 200 human ships and 300 Council vessels, all working together for the first time in galactic history. Jake looked at the tactical display, showing Zorthak's approaching fleet. 2,000 ships of every size and shape, all hungry for revenge against the Council. The warlord had gathered every angry species in the galaxy, promising them riches and power if they helped destroy the peaceful alliance. "Remember the plan," Jake broadcast to all ships. "We let them think they are chasing a beaten enemy. When they follow us deep into the nebula, we spring the trap." Steve Rogers was coordinating with the Council species from his position on a Zeltharian crystal ship. "The alien crews are nervous, but they are ready. 3 weeks of training have taught them more about warfare than they learned in 3,000 years of peace." The first part of the plan was already working. Human Scout. Ships had been running from Zorthuk's fleet for days, always staying just out of range, but close enough to keep the enemy interested. The Void Reapers thought they were chasing a panicked retreat. "Enemy fleet entering the nebula," reported Captain Lee from his destroyer squadron. "They are taking the bait perfectly." Zorthuk stood on the bridge of his new flagship, watching the human ships flee before his mighty armada. "Look at them run," he laughed to his officers. "The great human warriors are nothing but cowards when they face real numbers." His tactical officer Scare was more cautious. "My lord, this seems too easy. The humans fought cleverly before." "Why are they running now?" "Because they know they cannot win," Zorthuk replied. 2,000 ships against their pathetic fleet. They are smart enough to know when they are beaten. But the humans were not beaten. They were leading their enemy exactly where they wanted them to go. Deep in the nebula, where the gas clouds would hide the Council fleet and confuse enemy sensors. "Phase 1 complete," Jake announced. "All ships prepare for Phase 2. The Council species had been learning human tactics for weeks, and now it was time to use them. The Zeltharians, beings of pure energy, began moving through the nebula invisible to enemy sensors. Their job was to get inside the Void Reaper ships and disable their weapons. Bright Star, the young Zeltharian who had been training with Amy Parker, led his team through space like glowing ghosts. "Remember, we disable, not destroy. Leave the destruction to the humans." The Morpheans, with their ability to survive in harsh environments, were already hiding in the deadliest parts of the nebula. Their ships could handle the radiation and magnetic storms that would cripple most vessels. "Morphean Squadron 7 in position," reported Captain To Longname in his heavily modified cargo hauler. "We are ready to block their escape route." The Hydrans were using their natural teamwork to coordinate attacks that no single species could manage. 50 ships moving as one mind, striking with precision that amazed even the humans. "Enemy fleet is fully committed," Ryan Davis reported from his battle station on Earth. "All 2,000 ships are inside the nebula. Time to close the door." Jake smiled grimly. "All ships, execute Operation Final Lesson. Show them what happens when you threaten our friends." The trap was sprung with devastating effect. The human fleet, which had seemed to be running away, suddenly turned and attacked from 3 directions at once. At the same time, the Council ships emerged from hiding places throughout the nebula. "What is happening?" Zorthek demanded as his sensors filled with enemy contacts. "Where did all these ships come from?" "We have been surrounded," Scare reported in panic. "The nebula is full of Council vessels. They were hiding here all along." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Council species used their natural abilities in ways that no enemy could predict. Zeltharians passed through enemy hulls to disable critical systems. Morpheans attacked from the most dangerous parts of the nebula where no one expected them. Hydrons coordinated massive group attacks that overwhelmed enemy defenses. "Enemy command ship is disabled," Amy reported with excitement. "The Zeltharians got through their shields and shut down their main computer." "Morphean Squadron 4 has destroyed the enemy supply convoy," added another voice. "They are running out of ammunition." But the real damage was being done by the human ships, using tactics that combined all of their new allies' abilities. Captain Brown's cruisers worked with Zeltharian energy beings to create attacks that seemed impossible. Captain Lee's destroyers used Hydron coordination to strike with perfect timing. "This is Captain Morrison to Zorthek," Jake broadcast across all frequencies. "You wanted to destroy the Council because you thought they were weak, but you forgot something important. The Council is not weak. They just never needed to show their strength before." Zorthek's new flagship was under attack from 6 different directions. His mighty fleet, which had seemed unstoppable, was being torn apart by enemies who fought like nothing he had ever faced. "Impossible," he roared. "The Council species are peaceful. They do not know how to fight." "They learned," Jake replied calmly. "Humans taught them. And now they are teaching you why peace is worth fighting for." The battle lasted 8 hours. When it was over, Zorthek's great armada was scattered and broken. Some ships had been destroyed, many others had surrendered, and the rest were fleeing into deep space. The warlord himself was captured when Zeltharian energy beings disabled his ship's life support. "This is Captain Morrison to all ships," Jake broadcast. "The Void Reapers are defeated. The galaxy is safe." The celebration that followed could be heard across the entire nebula. Council species who had never known victory in battle were cheering, alongside human crews who had won their greatest fight. The peaceful aliens had learned that sometimes the only way to preserve peace was through war. Back at the rebuilt Council station, Speaker Vexthal addressed the combined fleet. His energy form was bright and strong again, no longer flickering with fear. "Today we learned that strength comes not from avoiding conflict, but from knowing when conflict is necessary," he said. "Humanity has shown us that peace is not given freely. It must be earned and defended." The Council voted unanimously to create the Human Defense Corps, making Earth's military the official protectors of galactic peace. Human officers would train Council species in warfare, while the aliens would contribute their technology and unique abilities. "What happens now?" Vexara asked Jake as they watched the mixed fleet patrol the nebula. "Now we make sure this never happens again," Jake replied. "The galaxy is full of beautiful, peaceful civilizations, but there will always be those who want to destroy what others have built. That is where humans come in." Amy Parker stood beside them, looking out at the stars. The Council forgot that human power is not just about fighting. It is about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Steve Rogers nodded in agreement. For thousands of years, the Council kept peace through diplomacy and wisdom. Now they will keep it through strength as well. The transformation was complete. The galaxy's greatest alliance had learned the most important lesson of all, that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the willingness to fight for what matters. And humanity had reminded everyone that sometimes the most valuable allies are those who never forgot how to win. From that day forward, the phrase, "Remember the Zarian Nebula," became a warning to anyone who threatened the Council's peace. The galaxy had learned what human power really meant, and they would never underestimate it again.